In the year 1086 AD, a veiled Berber warrior crossed the Strait of Gibraltar to save Al-Andalus from destruction. His name was Yusuf ibn Tashfin, and his story would reshape the destiny of two continents forever across the Mediterranean Sea. From the scorching sands of the Sahara Desert emerged an empire that would stretch from Senegal to the Ebro Valley in Spain. This is the extraordinary tale of a man who founded Marrakech, defeated the mightiest Christian king, and built an empire on faith. Yusuf ibn Tashfin transformed nomadic Berber tribes into a formidable military power that halted the Christian Reconquista for decades on end. His legacy remains shrouded in desert winds and medieval chronicles, revealing a leader of remarkable military genius, piety, and strategic vision beyond measure. What drove this veiled warrior to abandon the familiar desert for the complexities of urban conquest and sophisticated Mediterranean politics across two worlds? How did a man who spoke little Arabic come to rule the most powerful Islamic empire of the 11th century AD era? Today, we uncover the hidden truths behind the Almoravid Empire, exploring the battles, diplomacy, and faith that forged an unlikely superpower in history. If you find this documentary useful and informative, please like and subscribe to Unleash Facts to support our work bringing history vividly alive. The story of Yusuf ibn Tashfin begins in the year 1009 AD in the vast Saharan expanse of northwestern Africa. Born among the Lamtuna branch of the Sanhaja Berber Confederation, Yusuf entered a world shaped by desert warfare, trade routes, and survival. The Sanhaja tribes were veiled nomads who controlled the Western Sahara, their faces covered by the litham in their distinctive warrior tradition. These fierce desert warriors had once dominated the lucrative trans-Saharan gold trade, connecting West African kingdoms to Mediterranean civilizations for generations past. By the early 11th century AD, the Sanhaja had lost control of vital trade routes to rival Berber confederations and regional powers. The Zenata Berbers now controlled northern Morocco, while the Ghana Empire dominated southern trade routes, squeezing the Sanhaja from both strategic directions. Into this world of tribal rivalry and economic decline came a revolutionary religious movement that would transform everything beyond anyone's wildest imagination. Around 1035 AD, Yahya ibn Ibrahim, a Gudala chief, returned from pilgrimage to Mecca with newfound religious fervor burning bright. Yahya had studied in Kairouan, the intellectual center of Islamic North Africa, where he encountered the strict Maliki school of jurisprudence interpretation. Disturbed by what he perceived as lax Islamic practices among his people, Yahya sought a teacher to reform the Berber tribes completely. In Kairouan, the renowned scholar Abu Imran al-Fasi directed Yahya to a brilliant student named Abdallah ibn Yasin from the Jazula tribe. Abdallah ibn Yasin was a fierce advocate of Maliki law, who believed Islamic society required complete transformation through both preaching and jihad. When Yahya ibn Ibrahim brought Ibn Yasin to the Sahara around 1039 AD, the reception proved hostile initially. The Berber tribesmen rejected Ibn Yasin's strict teachings about marriage customs, alcohol prohibition, taxation reforms, and criminal punishment according to Sharia law. Discouraged but undeterred, Ibn Yasin withdrew with a small group of loyal followers to a fortified Raibat, or monastery fortress, for spiritual renewal. This Raibat, possibly located on an island in the Senegal River, became the crucible where the Almoravid movement was forged from nothing. The term Almoravid derives from Almorabitun, meaning those who bind themselves together for the defense of faith through holy war and devotion. Ibn Yasin imposed rigid discipline, corporal punishment for infractions, and intensive military training alongside Quranic study within the fortified monastery compound. Despite the harsh conditions, thousands of warriors flocked to this Ribat, attracted by the promise of spiritual reward and material plunder from conquest. By 1054 AD, the Almoravids had grown strong enough to launch military campaigns against both northern and southern targets. The movement adopted a triumvirate leadership structure, with Abdallah ibn Yassin as spiritual guide and Yahya ibn Umar commanding the military forces. They conquered Sijilmasa in 1054 AD and Oudagost in the south, establishing control over crucial trans-Saharan trade route terminals. Yahya ibn Umar died in battle in 1056 AD, fighting to suppress a Gudala tribal rebellion in the Sahara. His brother Abu Bakr ibn Umar succeeded him as military commander, continuing the relentless Almoravid expansion across the Moroccan Atlas Mountains systematically. In 1058 AD, the Almoravids captured Agmat, a prosperous trading city that would prove pivotal in shaping their future destiny. Here, Abu Bakr married the city's wealthiest woman, Zainab an-Nafzawiyat, whose intelligence, beauty, and political acumen became legendary throughout the region. Zainab was no ordinary woman, but a shrewd political operator who had been married to Agmat's ruler before the Almoravid conquest changed everything. Abdallah ibn Yassin died fighting the fierce Bargawata tribe in July 1059 AD, leaving Abu Bakr as sole Almoravid leader. The stage was now set for the emergence of Yusuf ibn Tashfin, Abu Bakr's gifted cousin, who would transform this desert movement forever. In 1061 AD, a fateful decision altered the course of North African and Iberian history for generations to come. Abu Bakr ibn Umar faced a serious rebellion in the southern Sahara among tribes who resented Almoravid authority over their ancestral territories. Before departing south to suppress the uprising, Abu Bakr appointed his cousin Yusuf ibn Tashfin as temporary commander of northern Almoravid territories. This decision, intended as a short-term military expedient, would transform into a permanent transfer of power that reshaped the entire Mediterranean world. Yusuf ibn Tashfin, then approximately 52 years old, had proven himself a capable military commander and loyal servant of the movement. Historians describe Yusuf as a man of medium height with dark skin, thin build, light beard, commanding voice, and penetrating black eyes. Unlike many Muslim leaders of his era, Yusuf spoke little Arabic, preferring his native Berber language and maintaining desert warrior customs throughout life. He wore simple woolen garments, ate barley bread and camel meat, and avoided the luxuries that corrupted many rulers in wealthy urban centers. Contemporary sources portray him as a devout Muslim who prayed regularly, fasted frequently, and genuinely believed he served a higher divine purpose faithfully. This austere lifestyle would define Yusuf's rule and distinguish him from the decadent Taifa kings who would later call for his intervention desperately. Upon assuming command, Yusuf made a decision that would echo through centuries and establish his legacy as a founder of great cities. In approximately 1062 AD, he founded Marrakech as the new Almoravid capital in the fertile plains south of the Atlas. The location was strategic, offering access to mountain passes, water resources, trade routes, and agricultural land, supporting a growing imperial administration efficiently. Yusuf ordered the construction of mosques, palaces, fortifications, markets, and infrastructure, transforming desert plains into a thriving urban metropolis almost overnight. Marrakech would become one of North Africa's greatest cities, a center of Islamic learning, commerce, and power for centuries after its founding. Meanwhile, Abu Bakr ibn Umar spent years suppressing rebellions in the Sahara, gradually realizing his cousin had no intention of relinquishing northern command. When Abu Bakr finally returned north around 1072 AD, he found Yusuf firmly established as de facto Almoravid ruler. According to tradition, Zainab an-Nafzawiyat advised Yusuf to meet Abu Bakr with courtesy, firmness, and generous gifts to avoid civil war bloodshed. The wise strategy worked perfectly as Abu Bakr accepted the situation gracefully, returning to the Sahara where he continued campaigning until his death. Yusuf maintained Abu Bakr's name on Almoravid coinage until 1087 AD, honoring his cousin while consolidating his own unchallenged authority. Having secured his position, Yusuf launched systematic campaigns to conquer all of Morocco and western Algeria over the following 20 years relentlessly. In 1063 AD, he began subduing cities held by the Zenata Berbers of central Morocco who resisted Almoravid authority. Fez, the great intellectual and commercial center, fell to Yusuf's armies in 1069 AD after years of determined siege warfare. Over the next 12 years, Yusuf led relentless expeditions northward and eastward, conquering Tangier in 1079 AD successfully. Ceuta fell in 1084 AD, giving the Almoravids control of both sides of the crucial Strait of Gibraltar crossing point. By 1082 AD, Yusuf controlled virtually all of Morocco and western Algeria, stopping only at territories ruled by related tribes. His empire now stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to the borders of modern Tunisia, encompassing diverse peoples, cultures, and economic resources magnificently. The Almoravids controlled the vital trans-Saharan gold trade, bringing immense wealth from West African kingdoms to Mediterranean markets through their territories exclusively. This economic power funded the professional army that would soon cross the strait to intervene in the crisis engulfing Muslim Spain dramatically. Across the Mediterranean, events were unfolding that would draw Yusuf into a completely new theater of war, diplomacy, and religious obligation unavoidably. The year 1008 AD marked the catastrophic collapse of the Umayyad Caliphate of Cordoba after centuries of brilliant Islamic civilization. Al-Andalus, as Muslim Iberia was known, fragmented into numerous small kingdoms called Taifas, ruled by petty kings who fought among themselves constantly. These Taifa kings were often cultured patrons of arts and sciences, but militarily weak, paying tribute to Christian kingdoms for protection shamefully. By the mid-11th century AD, three powerful Christian kingdoms dominated northern Iberia with expansionist ambitions, targeting wealthy Muslim territories southward relentlessly. Alfonso VI of Leon and Castile emerged as the most formidable Christian ruler, extracting enormous tribute payments from terrified Taifa kings. In 1085 AD, Alfonso captured Toledo, the ancient Visigothic capital, sending shockwaves throughout the entire Muslim world catastrophically. Toledo's fall was not merely a military defeat, but a profound psychological blow to Muslim prestige, pride, and confidence across the region. The symbolic importance of Toledo made Alfonso seem invincible, and other Christian kingdoms were emboldened to increase pressure on remaining Muslim territories everywhere. The most vulnerable Taifa king was Al-Mutamid ibn Abbad of Seville, a gifted poet and patron, but militarily inadequate against Christian armies. Alfonso demanded increasingly humiliating tributes from Al-Mutamid, including access to castles and direct interference in civilian internal affairs, threatening complete subjugation. Facing imminent destruction, Al-Mutamid consulted with his advisors about whether to invite Yusuf ibn Tashfin to cross from North Africa for salvation. His son Rashid warned that inviting the austere Almoravids would end the Taifa king's luxurious lifestyle and independent rule over their domains. Al-Mutamid responded with words that would echo through history as one of medieval Spain's most famous quotes, revealing his desperate strategic choice. He declared he would rather be a camel driver in North Africa than a swineherd in Christian Castile under Alfonso's humiliating domination. This statement captured the existential choice facing Andalusian Muslims, choosing between independence under Christian rule or submission to strict Islamic governance externally. Other Taifa kings joined Al-Mutamid's plea, including Abdallah of Granada and the rulers of Badajoz, Malaga and Almeria, seeking Almoravid intervention. In 1086 AD, Yusuf ibn Tashfin received their desperate letters requesting military assistance against Alfonso's seemingly unstoppable advance. Yusuf consulted with Islamic jurists and scholars who confirmed that defending fellow Muslims from Christian conquest constituted a religious obligation under Islamic law. The legal rulings provided Yusuf with moral legitimacy for intervention, transforming a potentially controversial action into a clear religious duty sanctioned officially. In July 1086 AD, Yusuf crossed the Strait of Gibraltar with approximately 15,000 seasoned Berber warriors prepared for battle. His army included 6,000 shock cavalry mounted on white Arabian horses, infantry armed with javelins and Indian swords, and psychological warfare drummers. The Almoravid forces also employed camels and elite African warriors from Senegal, whose fearsome reputation preceded them across the Mediterranean world widely. Yusuf marched to Seville, where he united his forces with the armies of Al-Mutamid and other Taifa kings, who provided local knowledge. The combined Muslim army then advanced toward Badajoz, where Alfonso had been besieging Zaragoza, but withdrew to meet this new, unexpected threat. Alfonso assembled approximately 2,500 men, including 1,500 cavalry, with 750 armored knights, prepared for decisive confrontation conclusively. Before battle, Yusuf sent a messenger to Alfonso offering 3 traditional Islamic choices, according to prophetic precedent established centuries before clearly. Alfonso could convert to Islam, submit to Muslim authority, and pay the jizya tribute tax, or face the consequences of battle. Alfonso rejected all 3 options and proposed that both armies meet for battle on Monday, October 23, 1086. Alfonso explained Monday was chosen because Friday was the Muslim holy day, Saturday the Jewish Sabbath, and Sunday the Christian day of worship. Yusuf suspected treachery but agreed to the proposal while deploying scouts and increasing security measures to prevent any surprise attacks during negotiations. The Battle of Sagrajas, known to Muslims as the Battle of Zallaqah, would become one of medieval history's most decisive confrontations ever. The battlefield lay near Badajoz, in a plain that would soon give rise to the Arabic name Zallaqah, meaning slippery ground, unfortunately. On the morning of Friday, October 23, 1086 AD, scouts reported Alfonso was mobilizing despite agreeing to Monday. Alfonso had devised a cunning strategy, planning to attack Al-Mutamid's forces first before the Almoravids could intervene from their separate position. He believed defeating the Andalusian Muslims would demoralize the unfamiliar desert warriors and force them to retreat back to Africa in disarray. Yusuf ibn Tashfin deployed his army in 3 strategic divisions designed to maximize his forces' strengths while compensating for numerical disadvantage. The first division under Al-Mutamid ibn Abbad took forward positions, absorbing the initial Christian assault with Andalusian and local Muslim troops. The second division, commanded personally by Yusuf, remained in reserve, ready to strike at the critical moment when Christian forces became overextended. The 3rd Division consisted of 4,000 elite African cavalry armed with massive shields and javelins, positioned to deliver the devastating final blow. This tactical arrangement demonstrated Yusuf's sophisticated understanding of battlefield dynamics, despite his desert origins and limited experience with European warfare tactics. The battle commenced at dawn, with Alfonso's forces launching a fierce assault against Al-Mutamid's division with overwhelming cavalry charges and infantry. The Andalusian Muslims fought bravely but began giving ground under the relentless pressure of superior Christian heavy cavalry and disciplined infantry formations. Alfonso pressed his advantage, driving deep into Muslim lines, believing victory was imminent as Andalusian resistance appeared to crumble before him. At this critical moment, Yusuf ordered his reserve division to attack Alfonso's exposed flanks, while his forces engaged the Christian center directly. Simultaneously, the 4,000 African cavalry charged into the Christian rear, creating chaos and cutting off Alfonso's retreat route to safety completely. The elite African warriors, armed with their distinctive weapons and mounted on swift horses, proved devastating against the disorganized Christian knights scrambling. One African soldier wounded Alfonso severely in the thigh with a javelin, an injury that would leave the Christian king permanently limping thereafter. The battlefield became a scene of carnage as Christian knights found themselves surrounded, outnumbered, and unable to execute coordinated tactical maneuvers effectively. The name Zallaqah emerged from this horror as warriors slipped constantly on blood-soaked ground that had become treacherous and nightmarish beyond description. As sunset approached and defeat became undeniable, Alfonso managed to escape with approximately 500 survivors to a nearby hill under darkness. Under cover of night, Alfonso fled to Coria, abandoning thousands of his soldiers dead or captured on the battlefield in utter defeat. Yusuf ibn Tashfin had achieved a stunning victory that halted Christian expansion southward for decades and restored Muslim prestige across Al-Andalus. The Almoravid commander ordered official proclamations of victory distributed throughout North Africa, read in mosques and celebrated in every Almoravid-controlled city. Al-Mutamid informed his son Al-Rashid in Seville of the triumph, and celebrations erupted across Andalusian cities from Granada to Cordoba joyously. The Battle of Zallaqah stands as one of the most significant Muslim victories over Christian forces during the entire Reconquista period historically. However, tragedy struck when Yusuf received news that his eldest son had died, compelling him to return immediately to Morocco unexpectedly. This hasty departure puzzled the Andalusian Taifa kings, who expected Yusuf to consolidate his victory and recapture Toledo from Christian control. Yusuf's sudden withdrawal revealed his primary concern remained North Africa, where his empire's stability depended on his direct personal presence and authority. The Taifa kings resumed their previous lifestyle, continuing to pay tributes to Alfonso and other Christian rulers despite their recent military victory. This behavior would prove fatal to their continued independence and ultimately justify Yusuf's return under very different circumstances within 4 short years. Yusuf ibn Tashfin returned to North Africa, troubled by what he had witnessed in Al-Andalus regarding Taifa kings' luxurious, un-Islamic lifestyles. The Andalusian rulers lived in palaces of extraordinary splendor, patronizing poets and musicians while neglecting military preparation and religious obligations seriously. They continued paying tribute to Christian kings, employed Jews and Christians in high government positions, and imposed heavy taxes forbidden under Islamic law. Wine flowed freely at their courts, and many kept harems of concubines in open violation of Islamic principles that should have governed Muslim rulers. Yusuf consulted with prominent Maliki jurists about the religious legitimacy of these rulers, who claimed to represent Islam while violating its principles. The scholars issued fatwas declaring the Taifa kings had failed their duties as Muslim sovereigns and could legitimately be deposed under Islamic law. These legal opinions provided Yusuf with religious justification to return to Al-Andalus, not as protector, but as conqueror of Muslim territories themselves. In 1090 AD, Yusuf crossed the strait again, but this time his target was the Taifa kingdoms themselves, not Christian armies. He moved systematically against the kingdoms, beginning with Granada, whose ruler Abdallah was sent into comfortable exile in Morocco without significant resistance. The following year, Yusuf captured Malaga and then turned his attention to Seville, the most powerful and wealthy of all Andalusian kingdoms remaining. Al-Mutamid ibn Abad, the poet king who had invited Yusuf to Spain, now faced the consequences of that fateful decision years earlier. Despite their previous alliance at Zallaqah, Yusuf besieged Seville in 1091 AD, determined to end Taifa rule throughout Al-Andalus. Al-Mutamid resisted briefly, but Seville fell, and the poet king was exiled to Agmat in Morocco, where he died in poverty years later. This tragic fate inspired some of Al-Mutamid's most moving poetry, lamenting his fall from power, wealth, and influence to humiliating exile in Africa. By 1094 AD, Yusuf had conquered most of Al-Andalus, uniting Muslim Spain under Almoravid authority for the first time. However, one major prize eluded Yusuf's grasp: the wealthy Mediterranean city of Valencia, ruled by the legendary Christian warrior Rodrigo Diaz. Known as El Cid Campeador, Rodrigo had carved out an independent principality in Valencia, fighting sometimes for Christians, sometimes for Muslims, opportunistically. Valencia represented a complex challenge, divided between Muslim and Christian populations, paying tribute to Christian kingdoms and defended by formidable mercenary armies. In 1094 AD, Yusuf sent his nephew Abu Abdullah Muhammad to capture Valencia, but El Cid repelled the attack successfully. Abu Bakr ibn Ibrahim ibn Tashfin, Yusuf's son, led another expedition against Valencia, but also failed to breach El Cid's defenses and military genius. Yusuf dispatched his trusted commander, Abu al-Hasan Ali al-Hajj, to Valencia, but even this experienced general could not overcome El Cid's tactical brilliance. In 1097 AD, Yusuf made his fourth and final journey to Al-Andalus, determined to personally lead the conquest of Valencia. Rather than directly assault the well-defended city, Yusuf adopted a strategic approach designed to draw Christian relief forces into the open battlefield. He marched toward Toledo, the symbolically important former capital, forcing Alfonso VI to recall troops besieging Valencia to defend central Iberia. This brilliant maneuver demonstrated Yusuf's sophisticated understanding of strategic chess moves that manipulated enemy forces according to his predetermined plans without direct confrontation. El Cid died in 1099 AD, removing the primary obstacle to Almoravid conquest of eastern Al-Andalus and Valencia permanently. His widow Jimena assumed control of Valencia, attempting to hold the city against increasing Almoravid military pressure from all directions continuously. In 1100 AD, Yusuf sent his lieutenant Mazdali ibn Tilankan to besiege Valencia with overwhelming forces and advanced siege equipment. After a grueling 7-month siege, Alfonso and Jimena recognized their position was hopeless and prepared to abandon the city they could no longer defend. In a final act of defiance, they set fire to Valencia's great mosque before fleeing northward to Christian-controlled territory in defeat and humiliation. Yusuf ibn Tashfin had finally conquered Valencia, establishing Almoravid control over eastern Al-Andalus after years of determined military campaigning and strategic maneuvering. By 1101 AD, the Almoravid Empire stretched from the Senegal River to the Ebro Valley in Spain, encompassing territories. This vast domain included Morocco, western Algeria, Mauritania, and approximately two-thirds of the Iberian Peninsula under a single unified Islamic authority. Remarkably, the Almoravids controlled major cities including Marrakech, Fez, Seville, Córdoba, Granada, Malaga, Valencia, and numerous ports facilitating Mediterranean and Atlantic trade simultaneously. This empire represented the first time Berber peoples had united North Africa and Iberia under indigenous leadership rather than Arab or external authority. Yusuf established a centralized administration based in Marrakech, with governors appointed to rule provinces according to strict Maliki Islamic law principles consistently. He imposed religious reforms throughout his domains, abolishing the illegal taxes that Taifa kings had levied and establishing proper Islamic taxation systems. Wine production and consumption were banned, music and entertainment restricted, and Islamic dress codes enforced more strictly than under previous Andalusian rulers. Jewish and Christian dhimmis were allowed to practice their faiths, but removed from influential government positions they had held under Taifa kings. These reforms alienated many Andalusians who had grown accustomed to the cosmopolitan, culturally diverse atmosphere fostered by the previous Taifa court culture. The Almoravid military machine proved extraordinarily effective, combining desert warfare tactics with siege technology and naval capabilities acquired through Mediterranean territorial control. Yusuf maintained a professional standing army funded by revenues from trans-Saharan gold trade, agricultural taxation, and customs duties from prosperous commercial cities. The army included Berber tribal levies, African cavalry, Andalusian Muslim infantry, and Christian mercenaries serving the highest bidder regardless of religious affiliation. This diverse military force gave the Almoravids tactical flexibility, allowing them to adapt to different terrains, enemies, and strategic situations across their domains. Contemporary Christian chroniclers described the Almoravid warriors as fierce, disciplined, and motivated by religious fervor that made them formidable opponents in battle. However, the Almoravid conquests did not significantly push back the Christian Reconquista despite their military victories on numerous important battlefields across Iberia. While Yusuf halted Christian expansion southward, he failed to recapture Toledo or other territories lost to Christian kingdoms before his first intervention. The Battle of Zallaqah prevented further Christian advances, but did not reverse previous losses, establishing a temporary stalemate between Islamic and Christian forces. Christian kingdoms in the north, including Castile, Leon, Aragon, and Navarre, remained powerful and would resume their expansion once Almoravid power declined. Yusuf's primary achievement was buying time for Islam in Iberia, delaying but not preventing the eventual Christian conquest of the peninsula centuries later. Cultural exchange flourished despite religious tensions, as Almoravid rule brought North African architectural styles, scholarship, and artistic traditions to Al-Andalus permanently. The distinctively Almoravid architectural style combined Berber geometric patterns with Andalusian decorative elements, creating masterpieces that still survive today in modern Morocco. Marrakech emerged as a major center of Islamic learning, attracting scholars from across the Muslim world to study in its newly established mosques. The Almoravids also sponsored the expansion of the Qarawiyyin Mosque in Fez, which would become one of the world's oldest continuous universities. Yusuf himself, despite limited Arabic literacy, patronized religious scholars and ensured strict adherence to Maliki jurisprudence throughout his empire, consistently and firmly. Relations with the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad remained respectful, with Yusuf adopting the title Amir al-Muslimin, meaning commander of the Muslims appropriately. This title acknowledged the Abbasid Caliph's spiritual supremacy while asserting Yusuf's political independence and authority over his Western Islamic domains without challenging Baghdad. The Abbasid Caliph recognized Yusuf's legitimacy, sending official robes and letters confirming his position as defender of Islam in the Western Mediterranean. This diplomatic arrangement satisfied religious protocol while allowing Yusuf practical independence in governing his territories according to his own strategic and religious priorities. The Almoravid Empire had achieved remarkable success, but would soon face challenges from both external enemies and internal religious reform movements emerging unexpectedly. Yusuf ibn Tashfin ruled the Almoravid Empire with austere piety and military efficiency until his death in September 1106. He died in Marrakech at the extraordinary age of 97 years, having witnessed the rise and consolidation of his remarkable empire. Contemporary sources describe his final years as marked by continued military campaigns, religious devotion, and unwavering commitment to the strict Islamic principles established. His son Ali ibn Yusuf succeeded him, continuing his father's policies, but facing increasing challenges from both Christian kingdoms and internal dissent. Ali lacked his father's military genius and charismatic leadership, struggling to maintain the empire his father had built through decades of warfare. The Almoravid Empire began facing serious problems almost immediately after Yusuf's death, as multiple internal and external pressures mounted simultaneously from all directions. Christian kingdoms in northern Iberia, having recovered from their defeat at Zallaqah, resumed aggressive expansion southward under new energetic leadership and papal support. Alfonso I of Aragon captured Zaragoza in 1118 AD, a devastating blow to Almoravid prestige and territorial integrity. This loss demonstrated that the Almoravids could not permanently halt the Reconquista, despite their earlier victories on numerous important battlefields across the peninsula. Meanwhile, Andalusian Muslims grew increasingly resentful of Almoravid rule, perceiving their North African overlords as uncultured desert barbarians lacking sophisticated urban refinement. Rebellions erupted in Córdoba around 1119 AD as Andalusians sought to restore their previous cultural autonomy and cosmopolitan lifestyle. The Almoravids responded with force, but suppressing these uprisings required military resources desperately needed to defend against Christian advances from the north. Even more threatening was the emergence of a new religious reform movement in the Atlas Mountains, called the Almohads, around 1020. The Almohads criticized the Almoravids for becoming corrupted by wealth and power, abandoning the pure desert Islam that had originally inspired their movement. Led by Ibn Tumart and later Abd al-Mumin, the Almohads launched a religious rebellion that would eventually destroy the Almoravid Empire completely by force. The Almohad movement gained support from Berber tribes who resented Almoravid taxation and centralized authority imposed from distant Marrakech over local affairs. By 1144 AD, Almohad forces controlled much of Morocco, besieging Marrakech itself and threatening the Almoravid dynasty's survival. The last Almoravid rulers, Ibrahim ibn Tashfin and Ishaq ibn Ali, desperately tried to defend their crumbling empire against overwhelming Almohad military power. In 1147 AD, the Almohads captured Marrakech, ending Almoravid rule in North Africa after less than a century. The Almoravid Empire had lasted barely 100 years from its founding to its complete destruction by the very forces it once embodied. Despite its brief existence, The Almoravid Empire left an enduring legacy on North African and Iberian history, culture, architecture, and Islamic scholarship permanently. Marrakech remained a major imperial capital, serving successive Moroccan dynasties as their seat of power for centuries after the Almoravids' fall from power. The city's layout, fortifications, gardens, and architectural style reflected Almoravid planning and aesthetic sensibility that influenced later Moroccan Islamic architecture profoundly and permanently. The Almoravids established Morocco as the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean, a position Moroccan dynasties maintained through the medieval and early modern periods. Their emphasis on Maliki jurisprudence shaped North African Islamic legal culture, creating a distinctive regional interpretation of Islamic law persisting to the present day. In Al-Andalus, the Almoravid period represented a final flowering of unified Muslim power before the inevitable fragmentation and Christian conquest of the peninsula. Their military intervention bought time for Islamic civilization in Iberia, allowing Andalusian culture to flourish for another century before Reconquista's final triumph. The architectural innovations introduced by Almoravid craftsmen influenced both Islamic and Christian Iberian architecture, creating the distinctive Mudéjar style, combining diverse traditions. Yusuf ibn Tashfin himself became a legendary figure in both Islamic and Christian chronicles, admired for his military prowess, piety, and personal integrity. Islamic sources portray him as a model ruler who combined military genius with religious devotion, never forgetting his humble desert origins despite achieving power. The story of Yusuf ibn Tashfin reveals fundamental truths about leadership, faith, military strategy, and the challenges of sustaining empires across cultures. His rise from obscure desert warrior to ruler of a transcontinental empire demonstrates how individual determination can reshape historical trajectories through decisive action. Yusuf succeeded because he combined religious legitimacy with military effectiveness and political pragmatism, balancing competing demands from diverse constituencies across his domains. His austere lifestyle and genuine religious devotion earned him credibility among followers who might otherwise have questioned a Berber leading Orthodox Islamic reform. The Almoravid movement demonstrates how religious reformism can mobilize extraordinary military and political energy when properly channeled toward tangible strategic objectives and goals. However, Yusuf's story also reveals the inherent difficulties of imposing religious uniformity on culturally diverse populations with different traditions and historical experiences. The Andalusian resentment toward Almoravid rule highlights the tension between religious purity and cultural pluralism that has challenged Islamic societies throughout centuries. Yusuf's military genius halted Christian expansion temporarily, but could not permanently reverse the demographic, economic, and military trends favoring Christian kingdoms in Iberia. The Reconquista's ultimate success demonstrates that military victories alone cannot sustain civilizations without addressing underlying economic, demographic, and technological changes occurring simultaneously elsewhere. The rapid collapse of the Almoravid Empire after Yusuf's death illustrates how empires built around charismatic leaders struggle to institutionalize legitimacy beyond founders. Modern scholarship continues debating Yusuf's legacy, with some historians praising his religious sincerity, while others criticize his destruction of Andalusian cultural diversity. The Almoravid period represents a case study in the challenges of balancing religious orthodoxy with cultural sophistication and political pragmatism across diverse populations. Some scholars argue Yusuf saved Al-Andalus from Christian conquest buying time for Islamic civilization to flourish for another century before inevitable Christian victory. Others contend his intervention destroyed the creative tension between Islamic and Christian civilizations that made Andalusian culture so remarkably innovative and productive. These debates reflect ongoing contemporary discussions about the relationship between religious authority, cultural pluralism, and political legitimacy in Muslim-majority societies today worldwide. Yusuf's emphasis on strict Maliki jurisprudence shaped North African Islamic identity, distinguishing Maghrebi Islam from Middle Eastern traditions and establishing regional distinctiveness. His military tactics influenced subsequent North African and Iberian warfare, particularly the effective combination of light cavalry and infantry in coordinated tactical operations. The Almoravid architectural legacy remains visible in Morocco and Spain, with distinctive geometric patterns, arches, and decorative elements characterizing Western Islamic architecture. Marrakech's emergence as a major imperial capital under Yusuf's vision transformed it into one of North Africa's most important cities, culturally and economically. The trans-Saharan gold trade, organized under Almoravid control, enriched both North African and Mediterranean economies, demonstrating the economic importance of African trade networks. For contemporary audiences, Yusuf's story offers insights into cross-cultural military conflict, religious reform movements, and the challenges of empire building across diverse populations. His ability to unite fractious Berber tribes under religious ideology demonstrates how shared belief systems can overcome ethnic and tribal divisions, temporarily at least. The eventual Almoravid decline illustrates how reform movements can become corrupted by the very wealth and power they originally opposed in righteous indignation. Yusuf's personal austerity contrasts sharply with later Almoravid rulers' luxury, demonstrating the difficulty of maintaining founding principles across generations of changing leadership. His legacy reminds us that even the most powerful empires are temporary, subject to internal decay and external pressure that eventually overwhelm them. Yusuf ibn Tashfin remains an enigmatic figure, simultaneously praised as a defender of Islam and criticized as a destroyer of cultural pluralism permanently. His veiled face, which he never revealed according to Berber custom, symbolizes the mysteries and contradictions that characterize his remarkable life and legacy. From humble desert origins, he built an empire, defeated Christian kingdoms, founded cities, and left an indelible mark on history across 2 continents. His story reminds us that history is shaped by individuals whose decisions at critical moments can alter the destinies of nations and civilizations. In the end, Yusuf ibn Tashfin represents the last great flowering of Berber imperial power before Morocco's absorption into broader Islamic imperial systems. Yusuf ibn Tashfin's extraordinary life spans 97 years of desert warfare, imperial conquest, religious devotion, and strategic brilliance that reshaped 2 continents. From the Saharan Rabat, where the Almoravid movement began, to the battlefields of Spain and the Palace of Marrakech, his journey transformed history. He founded one of Africa's greatest cities, defeated one of Christendom's mightiest kings, and united an empire stretching thousands of miles from desert to sea. Yet within decades of his death, that empire crumbled, demonstrating history's harsh truth that even the greatest achievements prove temporary and impermanent ultimately. Yusuf's legacy endures not in territory controlled, but in the cities founded, battles won, and principles upheld throughout his remarkable life and career. His story reminds us that leadership requires more than military skill. It demands vision, legitimacy, pragmatism, and the ability to inspire diverse followers. The Almoravid Empire's rise and fall offers timeless lessons about religious reform, cultural pluralism, military strategy, and the cyclical nature of civilizations historically. Yusuf ibn Tashfin remains one of history's most fascinating figures, a veiled warrior whose face we never see but whose impact echoes centuries later. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history and learned something new about this remarkable historical figure and his enduring legacy worldwide today, please subscribe to Unleash Facts for more comprehensive historical documentaries bringing the past to life through rigorous research and engaging storytelling every week consistently.